One day before the anniversary of Hurricane Helene, we are seeing a one-year review of the federal response. We got a copy of the white paper report the state fire marshal's office sent to FEMA. In it, a number of recommendations for reform and perceived agency shortcomings during Helene, the storm that killed more than 100 people in our mountains and caused billions in damage to western North Carolina. Joining me live virtually is State Fire Marshal Brian Taylor. Chief, before we dive into the report, can you take me back to that immediate aftermath of the storm and describe the fire department's response?
So yeah, it was, as we all know, it was devastating, the worst natural disaster in North Carolina history. We tried, we were pre-deployed, preparing, but we always try to prepare for the worst. And this was truly the worst thing that we've ever seen. And it was so devastating by cutting off western North Carolina and having access. So it was so difficult from access to communications. It was just, they were on an island to themselves.
It was quite overwhelming. In this report, you outline 4 specific recommendations for future response. One of them here is to give the fire service a seat on the FEMA council. You say there's no firefighter representation on this council right now. So why do you believe that's a major and potentially dangerous problem?
Well, my speaking points going all around the country speaking on this and the reform of FEMA is that FEMA and the emergency management is not a response agency. Your responders are your Charlotte Fire Departments, Greensboro Fire Departments, New York, Miami. They are your response element. It's crucial to have a spokesperson on this board. I have requested since the change of administration to be part of the overhaul. This council come out. We're very fortunate to have Michael Watley from North Carolina on that. So we do have a spokesperson for North Carolina, but I think it's important to have someone in the fire service. We have sheriffs, emergency managers, governors, and FEMA directors, former FEMA directors, but we don't have that true voice of the first line of defense in every community.
Yeah, I know you noted firefighters are oftentimes the first responders people trust the most. They're sometimes leery of these outside agencies, so that's really an important point. You also note there were bureaucracy delays affecting water restoration after Helene. What do you think is the solution to cutting through some of that red tape while also ensuring the response is coordinated and fair?
The lesson learned here from Helene is the public-private partnerships. I think we have to embrace and look outside, think outside the box. The bureaucracy, red tape from federal to state government, I had requested early on in Buncombe County when I was able to fly in by a private company that came in and donated their time and their jet to get me to start checking on locations. The biggest request that Buncombe County had is that our water distribution system is down, our water treatment plant is down. I put a request in that day. We could have had equipment on site within 24 hours. It took over 2 weeks to go through the bureaucracy of the current system. And then, beyond that, the game changer for this response was private entities like Operation Hilo. This was a complete air operation because western North Carolina was cut off. That's how we were able to get supplies in the fire departments and get them set up to start rebuilding their communities.
Yeah, Operation Hilo, Operation Airdrop. You had the NASCAR pilots like Greg Biffle flying their own personal aircraft to literally save lives. So you sent this white paper to FEMA at a time when the Trump administration is working to overhaul FEMA, giving more storm response control to states. There is that bill filed in Congress this month, the FEMA Act of 2025, which has, it appears, some bipartisan support. So are you hopeful this legislation will fulfill the request you've outlined here and improve storm response?
Yes, I truly believe they're going down the right direction. I had a great concern when I met with them Monday is because there were some concerns about moving FEMA under the military and or the Guard. And that's not the answer because that just adds to the bureaucracy. We're hoping that the FEMA director, U.S. Fire Administrator reports directly to either the Homeland Security Director and or the President as a cabinet position to be able to have access and get things done and cut out the bureaucracy. And, as Florida said, Louisiana, Florida, South Carolina, they know the secret sauce. They've been very successful, and I think we need to follow that model and pretty much tell FEMA, send us the money, let the locals operate in their communities because they know best what needs to be done. And I can tell you, western North Carolina, my lessons were, we had folks from all over the country, but unless you was with a person in a fire vehicle or had a fire emblem on your shirt, they were not allowed you on their property.
Wow, so certainly some improvements that you believe can really make an impact. So you said you met with some groups who can make a difference. When did those meetings happen, and what is the next step for you?
So the most recent meeting was the FEMA Review Council that Trump has put together, President Trump. They met, their subcommittee met in Fletcher just outside of Asheville and toured the area. I requested to be on that panel. I was not successful, but I was able to submit the white paper with the improvements that you're speaking of, and was able to speak to those members independently about some of our concerns and what direction you feel like that what recommendations were going to be given to the president for what FEMA should look like. And we had some very good people at the table. Our former U.S. FEMA director, Brock Long, the North Carolina citizen from the Hickory area, he was able to speak. He closed the meeting up and was very articulate in what needed to be done and what he tried in the last administration. So I think we're going in the right direction. And I think FEMA and the U.S. Fire Administration will look totally different once this council provides their report.
And lastly, I just want to know how your firefighters are doing. It has been 1 year already. How are they processing the trauma of what was such a devastating storm with loss of life?
So first and foremost, the fire service is resilient. The fire service is not going to fail, but this was a very difficult response. You got to understand that so many of them were helpless during this time. We had firefighters having to get on top of fire trucks to cut a hole through the roof to escape. We had firefighters coming from across the state to go help that basically said, I didn't sign up for this, and left. We're going to lose firefighters and first responders from this. We are focusing on their mental health. There were mental health officials on the ground working with them during this time. So yeah, it's going to linger for a good while. And of course we had, unfortunately, we lost a firefighter while trying to rescue folks in the Guerin Creek area. It's very sad.
So sorry about that loss. It has been so devastating. Thank you, Chief, for your time, for your efforts, and what your firefighters did that day and have continued to do to save lives and give hope after Helene.
Thank you so much for covering this and thinking of our first responders that do such great work each and every day. Thank you.
We'll touch base with you soon.